The United States and Europe have agreed on joint security guarantees for Ukraine, and Washington is preparing new sanctions against Moscow. As stated in Washington, the United States-European peace plan to prevent future Russian attacks on Ukraine includes strengthening the Ukrainian army, deploying European troops on Ukrainian territory, and expanding the use of American intelligence. In addition, Europe is ready to support the Ukrainian army, as it will maintain a peacetime strength of 800,000 soldiers. But what's even more interesting is the fact that the United States and Europe have finally synchronized their proposals and are ready to send troops to Ukraine in the event of new aggression from Putin. And moreover, even when peace is established, some European troops will still remain in Ukraine. The Kremlin is already loudly rejecting the minister's peace plan. In response, Washington stated that they are ready to impose new sanctions against Russia and its allies if Putin does not accept the peace plan in the near future. In this episode, we will go through the latest versions of the peace plan and the security guarantees document from the United States and Europe together with you. My name is Alexei Peche. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a detailed comment below. This really helps promote the episodes on YouTube, and I would be grateful to you for that. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel Peche News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. I'll begin this episode with the latest news on sanctions. The United States of America is preparing a new round of sanctions against Russia's energy sector. If the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin rejects a peace agreement with Ukraine, the new measures could be announced as early as this week, Bloomberg reports, citing sources. The sanctions could target ships of Russia's shadow fleet, as well as traders who facilitate transactions with Russian oil. However, journalists' sources say President Donald Trump will make the final decision early in the week. United States Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has already discussed plans for new sanctions with a group of European ambassadors. And it's important to note here that these sanctions were discussed not only with the Europeans but also with Vladimir Zelensky's team. All of this happened in Berlin, and we'll cover many interesting details about the negotiations there. According to the New York Times, as reported by officials both publicly and privately, American and European diplomats met with Ukraine's leaders in Berlin over the past 2 days. They mainly approved 2 documents outlining security guarantees. These security documents are intended to become the cornerstone of a broader agreement aimed at achieving a ceasefire and ending the war as a whole. They are also intended to persuade Ukraine to cede territory as part of a peace agreement and to give up formal inclusion in NATO. Well, as stated by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, quote, "We are seeing real and tangible progress. And this progress has been made possible thanks to the coordinated actions of Ukraine, Europe, and the United States." They'll next quote the New York Times. Nevertheless, a broad ceasefire still appears to be out of reach, partly because Russia is not a party to these negotiations. Any agreement to end the fighting would require significant concessions either from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky or from the bold dictator Vladimir Putin. Although Zelensky is concerned about American proposals, especially regarding territorial concessions, Putin has shown no flexibility in his demands. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said on Tuesday that his government still firmly demands that Ukraine hand over the part of Donbass that Russia does not control, and that it will not allow the presence of NATO troops on Ukrainian territory. In addition, the White House stated that the territorial issue remains an obstacle, but expressed confidence that despite Putin's public statement, the Kremlin leader will eventually accept the presence of European troops in Ukraine as long as they do not operate under the NATO banner. This was the result of joint United States-European efforts, and for the first time in months, European officials said they are successfully working with American negotiators and President Trump. Nevertheless, in Europe, to be frank, there is an opinion and concern that all diplomatic work with the Americans may prove useless if the fundamental disagreement between Ukraine and Russia over territories cannot be resolved. American and European officials stated that the security documents were agreed upon during more than 8 hours of intensive discussions with Zelensky in Berlin on Sunday and Monday. And here's an interesting point. As it turned out, not only the Ukrainian and American delegations participated in those negotiations in Berlin, but also top leaders and representatives of national security agencies from about 10 European countries, including France, Germany, Italy, and the United Kingdom. One of the two documents sets out the general principles. They represent commitments similar to the guarantees under Article 5 of the NATO Charter, under which all member countries are obliged to assist any country that comes under attack. This is one document, and the second agreement, which American officials have described as an operational document for military cooperation, contains more detailed information. It explains how American and European forces will cooperate with the Ukrainian military to ensure that Russia does not make renewed attempts to seize Ukrainian territory in the coming years. I should note that neither of the documents has been published yet, and now sources are saying that the operational document, that is, the second one, contains numerous specific directives intended to reassure Ukraine in various scenarios of a possible Russian invasion. One American official said that the document describes in great detail how to prevent further invasion and punish Russia if it happens. Supposedly, the document outlines different war scenarios, various scenarios of Putin's possible future invasion, and the Allies' response scenarios. So, it's a bit broader than just Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which, by the way, does not actually require sending troops. Ukraine made sure various scenarios were documented, allowing them to later say, "See, it happened as described." But still, the main guarantee of security mentioned in the documents is the Ukrainian army. And now the top priority is a plan to bring the size of the Ukrainian army to a peacetime level of 800,000 servicemen equipped with modern technology and equipment to serve as a powerful deterrent against Russia. During the war, the Ukrainian army grew to about 900,000 people. And for comparison, the German army has about 180,000 servicemen compared to the 800,000 that will be in Ukraine. Therefore, maintaining such forces will require constant and significant support for Ukraine. This is stated in a joint statement by the leaders of 10 European countries and top officials of the European Union. So, in the second document, there are very specific details listed about the military equipment Ukraine needs and who will finance all of this. Europeans must provide ongoing, as they say, permanent and significant support for Ukraine. The document also outlines details about Europe-led military forces that will assist Ukraine operating inside the country to secure its air and maritime space. They will cover the sea and air themselves. Officials declined to provide details about which countries will deploy troops to Ukraine, but it is known that this involves sending troops directly into Ukrainian territory. These troops are expected to be based in western Ukraine, away from the ceasefire line, to serve as an additional deterrent against any future Russian aggression. French and British diplomats are preparing a proposal to deploy European troops in Ukraine as part of a group of about 30 countries which they call the Coalition of the Willing. And so, as officials stated, essentially the separate document on sending troops will be like a menu, where each country can make its own choice. Some will send troops, others will provide money, weapons, or handle logistics, and so on. Trump has repeatedly ruled out sending American troops to Ukraine. Instead, according to officials, the operational document details how the United States will use its extensive intelligence systems to help monitor the ceasefire and detect Russian activity that would indicate the occupiers are preparing for a new attack. The Americans will also help verify Russia's compliance with the agreement and ensure that minor skirmishes between Russia and Ukraine do not escalate into a new war. The document also details how the United States of America will help identify attempts by Russia to organize false flag operations that could give Moscow a pretext to resume hostilities. And now one of the main concerns is that future security guarantees may prove to be unreliable. Well, just like the 1994 agreement that we know as the Budapest Memorandum. Russia violated this memorandum in 2014, then again in 2022, but the signatory parties practically did not take any military action to protect Ukraine. American and European officials have stated that the new security guarantees will be legally binding and will be governed by each country's procedures. American officials reported that Trump agreed to submit the security guarantees to the Senate, where treaties are usually ratified, although it is not yet specified whether they will officially present the guarantees as a treaty between the two countries. Here, the Americans are once again starting to stir things up and are trying to phrase it in such a way that it seems like guarantees, but at the same time not really guarantees. Zelensky stated the day before that the documents will be finalized in the coming days, and that he expects American officials to then deliver all these documents to Moscow and meet with Ukraine. Possibly as soon as this weekend. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. And friends, if you found this episode interesting and useful, you can support the work of this channel with your donation or a paid sponsorship subscription. By following the links and details in the description of this video, you'll see it says Support the Alexei Pichi channel, and below you'll find all the details and links. Choose any format that's convenient for you. I will be grateful for any support from you. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.